Once upon a time, in a sleepy little village, there lived a friendly young fellow named Rip Van Goofy. Rip was very popular, and everyone thought there was no one more easygoing or agreeable. Most times, you could find him sitting outside the village inn, chatting with his friends Mickey Van Bummel, the schoolmaster, and Horace Vedder, the owner of the inn. They gossiped about all the latest news in the village, commented on the stories in the newspaper, and generally talked the day away. Aside from chatting, Rip also enjoyed napping and fishing, and napping while fishing. In fact, Rip enjoyed just about any activity that didn't involve work. One sunny day, Rip Van Goofy, with his new fishing pole in hand, sauntered up to the inn to see whether Mickey Van Bummel or Horace Vedder wanted to come along with him to a special fishing spot 5 miles outside the village. "No, I'd best stay here and keep an eye on the inn," said Horace Vedder. "And I don't have a fishing pole," said Mickey Van Bummel. "But you have a good time, Rip." And so it was that Rip Van Goofy set out alone on that sunny day. He walked 5 miles out of the village along a dusty country road until he reached a large crooked tree. There he left the road and tramped through the woods until he came to a lush green spot on the banks of a trickling stream. "Ah, yes," said Rip as he sat down on the soft grass, dropped his fishing line into the water, and leaned back against a moss-covered rock. "This is the life." He kept one eye on his line, watching for any little nibble, while he closed the other. He spent a better part of the morning and afternoon half asleep, half awake, until late in the day when the sun began to sink toward the horizon. As daylight began to fade, Rip Van Goofy's other eyelid closed, and he fell into a deep, deep sleep. When Rip awoke, the bright morning sunshine was beating down on his face. He sat up and rubbed his eyes. Last he knew, it had been early evening. Now it was morning. "Well, golly," he thought, "could I really have slept here all night long?" Rip reached for his fishing pole and noticed something peculiar about it. The metal reel, which had been quite shiny and new when he fell asleep, was now completely rusted, and the wooden rollers looked much more weather-beaten than he remembered. "Now that's strange," said Rip, reaching up to rub his chin in wonder. Even stranger was the feeling of the long grey beard he felt on his chin. Rip wondered if he was still asleep and dreaming. How could a fellow grow a foot-long beard overnight? Confused, Rip Van Goofy rose to his feet, picked up his rusty fishing rod, and began his walk back to the village, a walk which took much longer than he expected, since he found that he could only move very, very slowly. His entire body felt extraordinarily stiff and sore. Eventually, Rip found himself walking through the center of the village. But was this his village? Rip wondered. Instead of the sleepy little village he remembered, he found a bustling town. Stranger still, Rip Van Goofy thought he knew everyone in the village, but today he didn't recognize a single soul, and no one seemed to know him either. Everyone stopped and stared at Rip as he walked by. "What in the world is going on?" Rip thought. "I need to find Mickey Van Bummel and Horace Vedder." So Rip Van Goofy walked to the village inn, but when he got to the spot where it should have been, he found that the inn was gone. In its place stood a restaurant called Vedder's Victuals, and out in front sat an old fellow in a rocking chair. "Do you know Horace Vedder?" asked the old fellow. The old fellow peered over his glasses at Rip. "Horace Vedder used to own this place," the fellow replied, "but he sold it to me before he moved away. That was 30 years ago." Rip's head was spinning. Nothing was making sense. How could Horace Vedder have left town 30 years ago when Rip had seen him just the day before? Rip was at his wit's end. "Well, golly, does anyone here know Rip Van Goofy?" He cried out in frustration. "Rip Van Goofy?" asked the old fellow, rising slowly to his feet. "Is that really you?" Rip heard something familiar in the old man's voice. Then suddenly he realized it was "Mickey Van Bummel?" Rip said, puzzled as to his friend's changed appearance. "But you look so old." Mickey Van Bummel chuckled. "And so do you, my friend," he replied. Just then, Rip turned and caught a glimpse of his reflection in the restaurant window, and he gasped. Who was that old man staring back at him? "Last time I saw you was the day you went fishing 40 years ago," Mick Van Bummel recalled. "When you didn't come back, we went looking for you, but we didn't know where your special fishing spot was. Where have you been all this time?" Suddenly, as Rip thought about the day's events, all the pieces of the puzzle came together. The rusted fishing reel, the long beard, the stiff joints, the changed village. He had been asleep for 40 years. Then, taking a seat next to his friend, Rip Van Goofy told Mickey Van Bommel the remarkable story. Before long, Rip's story had become a legend for miles around. And since Rip Van Goofy was just as easygoing and agreeable as the day he left, he soon became popular with everyone in town all over again. He and Mickey Van Bummel loved to pass the time sitting in front of the restaurant, chatting about the old days and just talking the day away. Rip also enjoyed fishing and napping while fishing. But now, before he dozed off, he always made sure there was someone around to wake him up, just in case.